Welcome. This is the Wednesday edition of the Geek and I Podcast. We are back on a Wednesday. Jeff, you've been released from prison, and it's good to see you again.
I got ankle monitor, though. I got
Okay.
ankle monitor. She won't let me get too far out of the house.
All right, that's why you're in your special studio there.
Well, I'm locked in, actually, but she lets me out to go to the bathroom.
Okay. Little too much information on
I'm
that
joking,
one.
man.
So,
I'm joking.
So
I'm
if
joking.
let's since you haven't been with us for a while, I think it's appropriate for you to do the introduction of our guest tonight.
Well, he was a gentleman that saved me, man. It was like, I needed help because I had this old school controller. I love it, but I need a better solution. And so I had to send out like the bat signal, and just like Michael Keaton, this guy looked up, saw the flashing light of the controller in the air. And so let me welcome to the show the man who saved my gaming life, Mike from the Retro Game Boyz. Give it up, Mike.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Our audience seems to like to stop quick clapping suddenly for some reason. Mike, it's nice to talk to you. How are you, sir?
I am doing well and appreciate being here. Thank you for having me on the show and working with Jeff for a couple weeks through text, just talking about it. It seemed like an exciting opportunity just to share some stories and BS about some retro gaming stuff. And looking forward to taking on and seeing what's going to happen.
So, right. Jeff, how did you? What was it? How did you stumble across the Mike's website?
Well, I stumbled across his eBay store first.
Yep.
That's where I found him. I was looking, like I mentioned earlier, literally, I was looking for an alternative because this controller here, when I put my palm of my hand playing it, the crease right here, my hands start cramping. And so, yeah, I'm getting old. And so what I did was I reached out to eBay like I normally do, looking for an alternative Atari 2600 controller. And that's where I found the Retro Game Boyz and their selection of controllers, and I found one. And I just did a show about that too.
Yeah,
Mike, how long have you been doing the controllers?
I could ramble, so make sure you cut me off when necessary. I'm now in my 7th.
We'll put a timer up.
You could. I'm now in my 7th year of doing this. 2017 is when I started. I officially was a sole proprietorship in 2020. And then last year, 2023, it became an LLC, limited liability corporation. So 7+ years and 8,000 units sold worldwide, thousands of happy customers right now. Yeah. I did not start going into this saying I'm going to be selling controllers. So, I got a story. I could share it when you guys are ready if you want to hear it, or, you guys are the host, so you kind of lead me. But yeah, it's going on 7 years and it gets strong, and I have a pretty good following and fan base. I see some of my friends that are on the stream right now that I invited, And these are customers,
Right
and
on.
I've actually
Hi, guys.
grown to know them as well. Dan, there he is. Not only, I mean, they were customers, but now they're friends. These are people I communicate with through Twitter mostly. Just send direct messages, and they check in on me. Hey, how are you? All that stuff. It's like not about just, hey, send me a controller or I need something new. And it's really nice to have that type of bonding relationship with these guys. Bonding over something common like retro gaming.
So what was your reasoning into getting into the retro gaming? Were you a gamer your whole life?
Yes. So I have a bunch of stories on my website that possibly get, looked over, but, to make a long story short, I kind of owe a lot of this to my wife, who kicked it off with retro gaming. Went to Comic-Con in Tampa around 2015 with my kids. We enjoyed it. So we said the next following year, let's take mommy with us. So she came with us. And as she would say it's a little too much weird for her, but she enjoyed it. One of the favorite parts of going to Comic-Con is the retro gaming rooms they have there, and all the computers are set up, and the arcades and the old consoles. So, my two daughters and my son and my wife, we all went in there and we're looking around and we're playing and stuff. And I see a table, and it's got everything laid out on there. And there was a Sega Master System, which was my first console as a kid, not the Nintendo, the Sega Master System. And it had the 3D glasses, and it was awesome. And I looked at it and I said, oh my God, I had that when I was a kid. I don't know what I did with it. I probably sold it or something. I don't know. It wasn't there. I never had it. I mean, after, I don't know what happened to it. My dad could have got rid of it. Who knows? So I said, oh my God, that's awesome. I remember having that. My wife's like, buy it. And I'm like, what am I going to do with it? Forget it. So then we went off to another part of the table, started looking at some stuff. And about 5 to 10 minutes later, my wife comes over with a box. And it's the Sega Master System box, that white box with the, the grid on it. And she goes, here you go. I said, it was like, nice. I don't know how much it was, like a couple $100 at the time. And she's like, I was like, are you kidding me? Are you shitting? What? So then I take it home. Obviously I set it up and I'm hooked. So now I'm like trying to look for all the games of yesteryear. So now I'm on eBay and I'm buying everything.
Been there, done that.
And you can see so far. I mean, that's just half. All right. There's stuff on the shelves. I got another thing over here and another thing back there. I started buying everything, and I had to get this and I had to get that. And, it was crazy. So then, parents moved from New York, came down to Florida, and we always saw them on the weekends. And eventually I started building up a pretty good collection. I was like, I wanted to, show my dad the stuff we had as kids. He bought us the 2600, went like 1979-ish, I guess. And that's another story. But I wanted to share that moment with him. He was getting up there in his age and stuff, and he was just a little sickly. And I wanted to hook it up, and I wanted to play Atari 7800 and the Coleco. And if you guys remember the controllers from the 7800, the Pro Stick, it was like this, and the ColecoVision was like this. My dad had rheumatoid arthritis, and his hands were pretty much, I'm saying mangled, but disfigured, and his L was shaped like a thumb, his thumb was shaped like an L. So he couldn't really hold a controller, and he couldn't experience that moment of nostalgia with us. And it was a little disheartening. It kind of, my son was there. He was younger at the time. We were like playing, games with grandpa type of thing. So I was looking at, alternative controllers similar to what you did now on eBay. And I took an old NES controller, and I had a kit that me and my son were working with little robotics and stuff like that. And I was like, let's go into what I call the retro gaming graveyard, which is that box. Everybody's got it. If you have a retro game collection, it's a box of old crap that you can't get rid of, but you might need it one day, whether it's wires or old controllers or plastic parts. I still got the RF shields for the ColecoVision and the 7800s after modding them for AV and stuff, thinking one day maybe somebody will need an RF shield. So I grab all this stuff and I create a controller, modding an old Nintendo controller to work on the 7800. And that's not anything really new. I'm sure that it's been done before, but I did it. I have a small electronics background. And I even got the first video of it on my old YouTube channel under my name of my son playing the 7800. And it was a Choplifter. And basically that controller was just the old Nintendo controller, and it worked with 2-button games on the 7800. I gave that to my dad, and he was able to hold the controller and use it, and even press the buttons.
Kept the controller looking the same, right?
Yeah. It was just like that. Wiring. That was the first controller like I sold. It was all like yellow and shit. It was just like the old type of, just colored controller.
But you configured it to this end, right?
Right. I configured it to a DB9 cable. I forgot to mention that. So back in the day, so what I would do is then my dad, after he said, because you got something here, because you put something on eBay and see if you sell them. And I said, all right. So I put one on eBay and it sold. So that same person who bought it on eBay, I don't know who it was. Some people are still with me, actually, since I started this, that by the way, but somebody bought it and said, can you make me another one? It's like, yeah, I made another one. This was actually taking the circuit board from the Nintendo, removing the chip from the Nintendo, carving the traces, running resistors and wires, hooking up the cable in certain area. It wasn't, it wasn't difficult if you have.
How long did that take?
It was time consuming. But the longer part was scouring eBay to find all the old Nintendo controllers that didn't look like shit, that weren't broken, that weren't covered in friggin' Coca-Cola and boogers and all this other stuff that you could imagine. So after this started to take off, right, I started buying all these old controllers off eBay, even from police auctions. I swear one of them came back with white residue on it. I swear. This was a police auction. And
you found my controller?
Yeah. So I would take all of these controllers, I would modify them. It started to get to a point where it was too much. So I started investigating creating my own circuit boards. So creating the design for the PCB, submitting it to a manufacturer, then getting the circuit boards. And then going to a manufacturer and getting the mold injected cases to put the circuit boards in. And then that started a relationship with vendors, distributors, different relationships with electronics companies, basically just down there buying parts, cable manufacturing, did all that, started doing the controllers. Then I needed a style on it. And then we started doing vinyl decals. And then one of my friends introduced me to 3D printing. And that's when things started to take off, because somebody said, can you make me an arcade stick? And I'm like, you can get these mold injected project boxes. Mold injection is great, but certain times it's too expensive. The way they have to be shipped in bulk, you have to buy them in like 10,000 units. Sometimes it's ridiculous. So I started out with 3D printing. I'm not going to save you the story on how many 3D printers I went through until I got to the one that actually works today. And then I started creating enclosures for arcade sticks. And that evolved from a 7800 2-button arcade stick, a single button or two single button, like a joystick. I don't have them on my site anymore because they're too time consuming, and I'm specializing in only so many arcade sticks right now. But then that evolved into Atari 5200 arcade stick, Vectrix analog arcade stick, Intellivision arcade stick, ColecoVision arcade stick, manufacturing custom keypads, wire harnesses, all that type of stuff to make assembly streamlined, right? So create the enclosure, then start assembling with the arcade sticks, the buttons, the wire harnesses, the circuit boards, all that type of stuff, and then perform that assembly. And it just evolved. That you could just hear from, this is going from 2017 to 2024. And now I have basically like a factory in my home, so to speak, if you will. I have two or three workshops.
I saw what you had, man. Well, the video you've been sharing, that's a really interesting video, and I actually include that in the show I did. But let me ask you this question, though.
Yeah.
So, as you guys know, if you've been watching the Collector Zone, I picked this up. Mm-hmm. Mike, this is a great controller, but you include some stuff. Now,
always do.
One is a, let me see here.
That's a smooth directional.
So you get like a little extra pad thing, which is cool.
Yep.
Where are these red things for?
Those just extra buttons.
Figure out.
Those are extra buttons. They're just, see, what happens is that I have a surplus of extra parts. Well, and I
where's it go, though?
Huh? I didn't
Where
hear
do
you,
those
Jeff.
buttons go? I mean, you keep.
Oh no,
Where
they're
do
just
buttons
extra.
go?
They're the white buttons. They're just replacements
Oh.
for the white buttons. That's all they are.
But they're red. Okay.
Yeah.
I see what you're doing. Okay.
So what I do is,
Right.
and even in some of my newer ones, I'm including additional contact pads and silicone pads. Now I could take all this surplus and throw it up on my site as like, oh, here's an upgrade kit or replacement buttons for your Nintendo controller. But I just give it as additional parts that maybe somebody wants to fix another controller with, or some people actually like to switch the buttons. They like to have
Yeah.
2 different colors, stuff like that. So I just
I can
include
see
those
that.
extra parts. And the directional pads, some people, those thumbsticks are manufactured. I don't print those. I get those manufactured from a
I
company.
love these. But how
Yeah.
much would a second one cost if I to replace that, break it or something?
Probably like $4 or $5. I only add another $2 onto my controller. When I look at my profit margins, when I do this stuff, anything I add to a controller, I usually add my cost to it just so I stay in the same profit margin.
Okay.
So when I started adding, like for example, it was $39.95, and then it cost me $2 to make it's expensive to get those things manufactured. I would have to buy them probably in thousands, but those I buy in hundreds, and it cost me $2, $1 for the thumbstick and $1 for the directional pad. So I just tacked $2 onto the price of the controller. So I could sell those separate.
Well, I'll pay that. I mean, that's a decent price.
Yeah,
because I was
shipping
pretty
is
hard
probably
on this.
more.
I've been really hard on this.
Oh, it's solid.
I'll definitely. We'll talk after the show.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, it's all good.
Oh, so bringing me. Oh, John, I'm sorry. Go ahead. You had because I had a couple more questions. Go ahead, John.
What is the length on the time it takes to print a controller?
Okay, so that's a good
Now,
point.
you said you have a couple of 3D printers?
I have actually 6. I have 4 Prusa 3D printers, which is like the best printer I've ever used. I have a Bamboo Labs X1C, which, if God forbid anybody watches this, I'm not having a good experience with it. I'm not a fanboy of it. But that Bamboo did print that Robotron gift I gave you. So it does. When it works, the Bamboo Lab. And then I have a Viper, which is like a budget 3D printer. So everything that I do from the square controllers are mold injected. Those are created from a manufacturer. The Robotron controller, for example, this is Jeff's, by the way. I got to mail this to you tomorrow. This is 3D printed, dual stick, mold injected buttons, 2 10-foot cables. There's a base here. It takes about 5 hours to print. And then this little part here on the top takes about, I print 2 at a time, takes 4 hours. And that's slow today by today's standards on some of these printers, because now a lot of the printers can produce a lot faster prints, which the Bamboo is supposed to do for me, but we can talk about that on another show. So I stick to what's tried and true, and I know works, and I get the quality. I mean, Jeff, when you get this, you're going to see how smooth this is. I improve a lot of my processes. I'm going to be honest. I produce things, people love them, they work them, but as years go on, I get better and better and better with the quality, so I
met you at the right time.
Well, I would say for the Robotron, I constantly improved on this. I mean, this is so smooth for 3D printing right here. I'm like, it's just look at me touching it.
It looks badass, man.
No, but it is. So something like that, John. 4 or 5 hours for certain parts. The Atari 5200 arcade stick base takes about 10 hours. The Intellivision arcade stick base takes 14 hours to print. So I start these print jobs in my workshop, I have one workshop over here behind that secret door. Basically, that's a shelf. You open it up and there's my other workshop in there. And that basically start the print jobs at night, and those things do what they have to do. And I wake up in the morning. Sometimes there's a couple hours left. Sometimes they're done and they're ready to go.
Now, is it one at a time? Because I was just up at the Texoma Comic-Con, and I was speaking to a guy who was doing Star Wars helmets 3D printed. And I saw a video of his machine, and he's able to do like 6 helmets at once, because he's got his shop and his machine is so big that it's doing like 5 or 6 at the same time.
He could have one of those conveyor belt ones. There's machines that have like a rolling conveyor belt, that can do, multiple prints. So it's possible it's doing something and then moving it and doing something and then moving it. I mean, I've seen the conveyor belt ones that can do like a sword. So, it constantly just stretches out along the conveyor, but these are just single bed 3D printers that can just do one at a time, depending on how much room is on the bed.
So turnaround time from an order to my door, say it's 3 day shipping. How long is the process?
So that's 6 to 8 weeks, probably, depending. And I have all these disclaimers on my site. I got so much business going on. It's like, if you don't want it, then go somewhere else type of thing. It's like when you check out, there's a checkbox that says you agree to terms and conditions. And then when you go to the terms and condition page, it says, first, you understand Mike has a family and a day job. Second, you understand these things take time to build. It's like you're agreeing to these terms and conditions before it won't let you check out unless you click that checkbox. So
check this out, guys. I'm sorry, Mike. I have to share this. So Mike has been really cool, and he's been telling me about my shipment. And so he gave me an email about the notification about shipment. And then I asked, I told him something in regards to the shipment. And he said, "Hello, retro gaming customer. This is an automated message from the Retro Game Boyz or the email messaging system. Thank you for your interest and for your message. As much as I want to respond right now, I'm either at my day job or my wife will kill me if I start answering emails during family time." And that, you had me cracking up over that, man.
That's my automated. I just added that.
That's
recently.
Awesome.
Thank you. Yeah. Wife and I were talking about that because we like to relax at night, watch a lot of movies. We're doing a lot of, I just finished Band of Brothers, and, we're doing a lot of World War II movies and stuff, documentaries, and the phone goes off a lot. And I always want to be courteous and get that customer and say, "Hey, I'm here for you," but I also got to be there for my family. My kids, they're in their 20s, and my son is 18. They're old enough now. And they just say, "I want a present father." They joke around. They don't mean it, but that's, if they see me on the phone. And the biggest thing right now that's going to be on my tombstone when I die.
Oh, no.
Okay. I use voice to text. Okay. And whoever's watching this in my family knows now, I say, blah, blah, blah. Thank you. Blah, 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 blah. New line, regards, comma, new line, Mike. And it just basically in the dictation, it puts the space and the comma and the mic. So now every time they hear me, new line, regards, comma, new line, Mike, new line, that's all that it gets thrown up in my face all the time. It's like, I feel self-conscious saying it every time, but that's the big joke.
When I got your text message really quick, I thought, man, he's a fast typer.
Oh yeah. I have macros on my phone that send automated messages. Every time somebody buys from eBay, I go right to the eBay. I hit contact buyer. I hit the message and it sends it. In other words, they need to know you're going to wait at least 5 to 10 days for a control pad. Or if they're on my site, I have more control. The whole eBay thing is that I get a lot of traffic on eBay, a lot of net new, as we would call it in the, sales business. And then they gravitate over to my site, and then they want some other things. They get a discount, they save money, all that type of stuff. But there's some, you've seen mobile devices. They don't read. People don't read the descriptions, and eBay doesn't make the best experience. They're like, "Oh, I'm buying this controller. Buy." So 2-3 days go by. "Hey, where's my controller? Why didn't you?" And some people, the majority of people have been great, but there are some people out there that are just like expect everything, and they're like, "Well, I paid for it and you never shipped it." I'm like, "Oh." Calm down. So I go in and I explain that, and they go, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't read the description. You're right." And then they turn around. But what happens is that eBay stigma of just every seller on eBay is an asshole. Because am I allowed to curse, by the way? Is that gonna
feel free?
Stop it? Okay. Because you two got cursing.
I'm not an asshole, man.
Yeah. Well, that's that's the deal. It's like, you were great, Jeff, right off the bat, communicating wise. But yeah, they're like, every seller on eBay is predisposed as being an a-hole because somebody got burned by somebody else. And if you look at my feedback, you see like a lot of things that people like, I wasn't expecting to be treated like a real customer, you know, all this type of weird stuff that it's like, man, what happened to
I
you?
said that too.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway,
You have the best customer service, man. I was
try.
really floored. When I first started talking to you, I was floored by how respectful you were. Then as you know, we opened up over time, you know, I was just like, when I finally got your controller, and I say finally because good things happen to people who wait. This thing is top of my list. I love it. And then that brings me to this thing. I couldn't play this game because of me. My Atari 2600 Plus
booster grip
wouldn't load it.
Oh,
yeah, but
that's right. It won't load.
You said you could do it. Yeah,
but wait,
load,
does that work on your 2600 Plus? It won't work.
Well, I was wondering if this controller will work Omega Race since it's 2 buttons, thrust and fire.
It won't because Omega Race used a different pin on the controller.
Oh,
so that's why you have to buy my Omega Race controller. But technically,
which is that one.
But, you know, it's funny. A lot of people, it's like, you know, you have controllers for many different things, right? You have the customer that's like $70 or whatever it is. I'm not going to spend $70 to play one game. But then I'll ask the other 200-300 customers who said, I'm spending $70 to play one game called Robotron. But, you know, that type of stuff. So it's like, I'm not worried about that one customer who does it. If he's never going to buy, or he's never going to buy anyway, you know, or he's going to hem and haw or try to find a cheap alternative, et cetera, et cetera. But 7800 wasn't designed to work with the booster grip. The booster grip was introduced with the 2600, and it just used an extra pin to initiate the thrust and the fire. So technically, if you opened up that controller and you pulled out that resistor, there's a resistor in there. You pulled out that resistor, you'll lose the 2-button 7800 capability, but you'll get the booster grip capability. I did build one with a switch, and it was just one of those things that just takes so much time.
It wouldn't load on my 2600 Plus. They're talking about might work if they do the update and some beta. I'm not jacking my 2600 just to play one game.
Well, so, it doesn't work on the Retron either. The 77.
Playing this and this together was fun.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, kind of. But which is why you got that controller for me.
Yeah. I can't wait to send it out. Oh, go ahead.
I know, man. Oh, sorry. We talked too much, John. What, you had another question?
No, go ahead. You know, I just find it interesting. Listen to you guys because, I mean, my gaming experience peaked in 1982 with my Vectrex. So, you know, I was never a gamer, and you know, my son's home from the. He just got out of the Marines, and he's playing all his video games now, and he's giving me all his old Xbox stuff, and you know what? I got this thing.
Yep.
And it's got way too many buttons. It is way too.
That's because we started out with shit like this, man.
Yeah, give me a button and a stick, and I'm happy. This thing, I can't figure out how to turn the darn thing on.
Yeah, the center X. I know that much because of my son. You have to see my son just play. You know, he does a lot of, I guess, open world type games like Fortnite or Apex. And
I can lose my life playing the game.
He uses his keyboard.
World, man.
I don't know. He's on the keyboard. You know, he's like with his hands in his mouse, and I'm like, I don't know how the hell he's doing this shit. It's like he's like, Dad, I want you to play, and I'm like, I can't. They drop me in a zone, no weapon. And then I got to scrounge for shit. I got to try to find my own gun. And then by the time I find a gun, I'm shot and I'm over with. I'm like, Jake, this is not fun. You know, I just give me an old school game.
I tried streaming The Last of Us because I enjoyed the TV show. So I said to myself, you know what? Let me try the game. Yeah. So I get online and I start streaming the game. I can't climb over this fence. It took me 45 minutes to climb over a fence
Yep.
And finally, I just said, good night, everybody. I can't do this. This is
I fast forward.
Yeah, let me-
I couldn't go any longer to watch that pain.
right over here is my gaming experience. It's Galaga,
Yep.
Pac-Man, and Galaxian.
Yep.
And that's it. It's a joystick and a firing button.
Yep.
And I could play that all day long.
Yeah, and you have lots of fun with it. I created this arcade over here with like a multi-cart type setup in it.
I was going to ask.
Yeah, and
It looks like
it's
it's got a
actually
trap
a
on there,
real-
right?
It's got a real Area 51 board in it too, so you can play
Really?
light gun games on it as well.
Nice.
So yeah, there's a board. So there's a board you could actually split the. It's got a
The
Pandora
camera
box
board, you
in it.
mean?
Pandora
Oh, okay.
box. But then the Pandora box is hooked up to a JAMA board also, which is the actual
Okay.
board from the actual Area
The
51
arcade.
game. So yeah, if I pulled this apart, you'd see a bunch of boards in there. So I was like, this is like if you just want to play, your Neo Geo, your Sega Genesis, your Super Nintendo, your Nintendo, they sell these all-in-one unit type things. And you just,
Yeah.
or even the old school arcade game, you just select the game, hit a button, and you're done. Maybe the most, John, is 6 buttons right in front of you. You can handle 3 in a row, right?
You know what? If you,
How were you at Street Fighter?
I'm horrible.
Street Fighter uses a lot of buttons.
I don't play Street Fighter. I
Mortal
was the
Kombat?
worst. I was the worst at Mortal Kombat.
Just button smash. That's what I would do.
My nickname in the arcade was Fatality because
Toasty.
I was always dead.
I thought,
And-
let's finish him. Hey, finish him. How you doing?
That's right.
Well, I was going to ask you, Mike, what kind of arcade machine that you have back there, but you just answered my question.
this
Now
is-
you still have my address if you don't want it,
What was that? Oh yeah. Well,
I said,
hey, you know
yep.
what?
My address if you don't want it.
It takes up a lot of room. That's actually a Z-back cabinet. It was
Wow.
a Street Fighter cabinet, believe it or not. So all these buttons were
No,
covered.
I could see
and
that.
There was holsters here, up in that area, and I converted it by adding all the buttons and stuff in the light gun, so I could get it to work with the light gun game. But it was actually a Street Fighter cabinet when I got it, and then I had it wrapped by a company that did the signs, stuff like that. You can see.
Oh, you have it on wheels?
Oh yeah, I
Okay.
put it on wheels to make it so I
Nice.
could be able to move it.
That's smart because those things are heavy.
Oh man, yeah, getting this thing home.
So
is ridiculous.
this is the future of Retro Game Boyz, right?
No, that
Arcade machines.
if I'd have to quit my day job to just focus on that alone. That was a lot of work, getting all that stuff up together. I'm old school
No doubt.
electronics, old school small electronics. I just got lucky that everything in there worked, including that monitor, that CRT.
Wow.
I have a friend that
I'm not good like you.
that has the Raspberry Pi.
Yep.
And it has the vector graphics Star Wars in it.
Yeah.
What would it take? Is that something that would be able to be made to build a desktop version of the controller for that with
You mean
the
the
buttons
yellow?
on the
Star Wars?
front and the triggers and make it
It would be a pretty, decent feat. I mean, it's an analog type stick. So, getting the right resistance, what they call the potentiometers and, for the axis, and then creating the, the gimbal and all that other type of stuff. I mean, it can be done, and it's been done as far as, there's a number of models available for yokes and, sticks and stuff like that. It's just more of the electronics, figuring out the electronics to make it work. It's also translating the input or using what's called like a USB encoder. So a lot of stuff people want to play on a PC, right? So that's the other thing. All my stuff that I make is for the original hardware, the original
That's what I love.
console. But there are other great creators out there. I partner with a few of them that create USB adapters to work with RetroPie or PC. And those go into a regular
really?
USB port. Yep. They go right into a USB port.
So you got adapter.
And then that plugs right into their adapter. And then you have
So
basically your old school controller playing a emulation game on your PC or RetroPie. But the problem,
I can plug it right into my Pi. Will it register it, or
well,
do I
that's
have
the
to
thing. So
map
here's
it?
where the trick comes. For something like a 2600, you got one button left, right, up and down. You're okay. But when you start going into like ColecoVision and television and then registering all the key buttons, there's a keypad mapping software, right? So like, for example, regular.
I saw that on your website, I think. What was that? Where did I see that on your website? There was 5200 9.
Oh, that's the keypad. If you're talking about the keypad for the arcade,
I see that. Yeah, I see that keypad there. Okay. Yeah, that ColecoVision key mouse module.
Oh, the keypad module. Yeah, that's just for the original hardware. But as far as the USB stuff goes, you have to be able to translate those inputs so the computer would understand it, and that's where you need the software to do that. And that's what these devices will do. But there's something called firmware and cores and all this other stuff that has to be part of that setup. So you have an emulator that has a core for the operating system that it's going to use for the console. Then you have the hardware for the USB that's going to do the translation and the encoding of the stick movements and the buttons. So, for example, Mr., which I don't have right now, but that's just like a big emulation. You guys on the stream or people who's watching might know more about it. I know, for example, one of their cores and their firmware does not support these USB emulation adapters 100%. So, for example, somebody tried it with my Coleco arcade stick, and they were able to get every other button to work except pound or something like that. So they had to get in touch with the person at Mr., and then Mr. had to get in touch with the person at whoever made the adapter to plug it in. It was just like not everybody's talking at the same time. So if it doesn't support it, you're not going to get 100% compatibility.
So you're at 90% compatibility, you think, right now? Or?
Yeah. Well, at that point, it's out of my hands. I mean, if it works on the original, yeah, if it works on the original, and somebody wants to get it to work with the RetroPie, I'd be open to knowing how you got it to work and what hardware you used, and let's exploit it, just to share it, just to, for the information sharing. Because right now, I don't think anybody has gotten a successful emulation to work that I'm aware of. Even like, for example, in television, I have a couple of old Intellivision emulators on my PC. I have an adapter that works with my Intellivision arcade stick on my PC, but the emulator doesn't recognize the adapter or the mapping of the configuration. So it's it gets.
I didn't think about that one.
Yeah,
because I have a RetroPie 4 I just recently got. So I was thinking about doing a new build, and I got all these ROMs that I already have files. I'm just trying to figure out how would your adapter work with that. I guess maybe, because that depends, like you said, if the game will accept.
It's up to the adapter to be able to work with the operating system. That's basically, one of the guys.
The adapters needs to talk. Okay, I see it now. I get it now.
Yeah. Could I share my screen real quick?
Sure.
This is one of the guys.
Chicken Bow Wow.
There we go. Share. I understand.
We need dim the lights for this video here, Mike.
Select tab to share. Select window, entire screen. There we go. And Chrome tab, iCode. There we go.
Pull up your bank account.
Okay. So this is going to be a plug for one of the guys that I've worked with in the past, iCode.com. Here are some of those adapters. So this one is for Atari joystick paddles. This one is for, it's a 4-port. This one is a Bluetooth wireless type of thing, which I'm not too sure how well that, I haven't had too much success with wireless. But these adapters, he also had one for the 5200. Here's his old school adapters. These are the originals that he had. And he had some for the 5200 as well. But these are the USB adapters that I'm talking about that could possibly work with a RetroPie or a PC.
But the key word is possibly.
Okay. Yeah, and that's like above, my pay grade, so to speak.
Well, I mean, I just know that getting your Robotron controller will work on my Robotron because I was watching your videos and you were jamming. And I'm like,
you saw that one, yeah.
I was really like, oh, come on. I was trying to run and shoot. It's impossible.
Yeah, it's impossible. I mean, you could try to have fun with it, but yeah, my highest wave is 47, 1.7 million, I think.
Okay, I gotta write this
on
down.
Robotron. So
I need to beat this.
I've sold over 200 of those Robotrons since I started making them.
Really?
Like you're looking at version 3. I've come out with a couple of versions of them. And there's enough people out there to, if they still have them, to do like a Robotron challenge or something like that to see who can get the highest score.
Can you make one out of gold and red?
I now I can, you're
like
I'll
chrome
update.
looking, like a chrome finish instead of the black. I was wondering in the future.
I haven't explored that yet. I mean, there's this electroplating I was looking into at one point. There's a lot of work to do that. If you have seen
it, looks cool for the people. I seen one video. It was a brief one, and it just looked really cool. And they said that they were going to do the 3D printing this type of, I guess, stuff they're using. I don't know what it is. I don't know what 3D printers use.
Oh, you mean the filament?
I know it's not ink.
No, the filament. Yeah, the filament that's used. They're coming out with different filaments that can do a level of sheen and gloss. But the problem is it has to do with speed and temperature, and you'll get different sheens. Depends. So you have to dial in the settings right, but it is possible to get like a mirror finish as long as the filament supports it.
So now on something like this,
what all the controllers are doing.
Okay. Oh, go ahead.
What
cool.
the overlays, is that just a sticker that goes on that?
No,
or
so this is something new that I'm experimenting with. So I only got this piece of equipment in January, and I've only been using it we're talking about a little over a month. So I have Photoshop skills, Adobe Illustrator skills. That is a
ninja skills, knife skills.
Sure, a whole bunch of different types of skills.
It's got a set of skills that Liam Neeson's going to be scared of.
Exactly.
Certain set of skills.
Yeah.
That is a
it can't be a sticker because this doesn't feel like a sticker.
Okay,
man.
So Jeff, what you have there is a 3D printed inlay, 2-color 3D printed inlay. Okay. So at the time,
it was really good. I was like, damn.
Yeah, depending on speed and the diameter of the nozzle and the settings that you're using and you're dialing in, you can get a certain level of detail.
Well, I was amazed by the way it felt and looked. I mean, it was. Mm-hmm. I was just blown away. Like I said, when I first looked at it, I was like, "Oh, no way!" And I was trying to do the video while thinking in my mind, "Holy crap!"
I used to use vinyl decals that I used to get made from a print shop, but that print shop went out of business and nobody wanted to take on the extra work. So I had to come up with a way to continue my product. So I came up with 3D printing, but I was limited to a 2-color design, white and black. Now I could do multicolor, but it takes more time because you're manually changing the filament at different layers to get the different multicolor effect.
Wow.
Then the Bamboo Labs X1 Carbon came out, which was this multi-material 3D printer. And like I said, it does, when it works, it works pretty nicely, right? So
can you put it close to there you go.
Yeah. So this is
that is badass, man.
Okay. And this took about 2 hours to print. There were 89 filament changes during the process to make this. So it's got it.
Will you be selling these on the website too?
I had, but nobody seemed to take an interest in it. So I kind of make them and just give them away as gifts sometimes. But I had them, if somebody wants something, I can make them stuff. But I was thinking about starting some kind of subscription where once a month, I'll create some kind of 3D printed character, for, decorations or whatever, and they get one for free every month or something like that. But it's just one of these ideas I was toying around with. So I started dealing with the multicolor printer to create multicolored inlays. And around that time, I started looking into UV printing, ultraviolet printing, which is basically a ultraviolet curable ink, where you have an ultraviolet light that goes over the ink at the same time. And Jeff, you might have seen some of the videos I posted, and it hardens the ink. So it's just like having an inkjet printer, but with ink that stays hard.
I was impressed.
Kind of like Viagra.
Oh.
It's Viagra for an inkjet.
Viagra for printers.
For printers. So that's I started.
There you go. I knew the show's going to take a turn.
We got a little mixing board there too. So I started investigating into UV printing. That's another story too. If you ever want to talk about UV printing, holy shit, the stuff that I'm learning and what I'm dealing with and expenditures and all this other type stuff. But the thing is that I had to create jigs. I 3D printed my own jigs, measurements, put a 3D printed inlay, which is just a plain black 3D printed inlay that's a certain depth. And if you want to show that picture again, John, just to give an example. And then I go into Photoshop, and some customers, I try to stay away from using a lot of like trademark and copyright type stuff if I can. But sometimes,
I was wondering.
A lot of people get away with it. I'm not saying that, because they do it, I should do it. It's that if a customer says, hey, can you make me something? It's like, yeah, I'll make it for you. It's like, and then I'll have a couple extra and then I'll just get rid of them. And then I'll go back to generic design. So you can see that a lot of generic, this is my new, so instead of that Atari Fuji, this is the new design for the 7800.
That's really cool.
Right. So that's the new
really
design.
Cool.
For the
But I need to have the little circle pad thumb thing,
Oh, well, yeah. It's a lot. That's another story. To each their own, right? Some people, depending on the size of their hands, the size of their thumbs, how sensitive it is.
Well, I'm not that fat, but
I didn't say that. You haven't complained, but I get calls like, hey, I can't play my Pac-Man. I can't get my angles on my Pac-Man or something.
It's
and I'm
some
like,
size, man.
Yeah, that's pretty decent.
It works.
But
I like the idea. It's shooters. This works very good with shooters.
Oh yeah, because you got all the different 8-way directions on that.
Yeah.
I have something here. So for example, here at Sega Master System, I made it look like Sega Master System, but it's not using Sega.
That's cool.
Okay, but it's kind of mocking up the Sega Master System brand. Wood grain 7800. This matches, if not close, to the 2600.
I saw you trying it. I mean, it was getting close.
I actually had to go through a couple of iterations of this. This actually matches as close. I was doing laser cutting of real wood veneer for some time, and that got really expensive. And I said,
these are all sticker kind of things?
No, it's a 3D printed
and they're glued
material. And then it just has an adhesive on the back.
Okay. I was wondering if it's glue or how do you do
no,
it? Well, this
here,
is not.
There you go. It's just it's an LCD tape. Okay. LCD tape, which is very strong.
Uh-huh.
I
like that one.
Yeah, that's for the Commodore 64. So I just started creating, different types. This one is actually a design of my buddies. I have an artist friend that I work with, and he makes art for like video games, music, movie posters, and he gets a lot of like sanctioned like stuff that he's allowed to reuse. So he actually creates a lot of custom artwork. So that one there you go. That skull on the right.
Yeah, that was pretty wicked.
It's his artwork, and then I just mixed in some free domain skull bones.
Hey,
and
you can put a Terminator face there,
Yeah, you could do anything. I mean, but the point with that is that now I am creating designs and printing them using the UV printer on these faceplates. That's one of his designs too. That was like a Star Wars Ahsoka design that he made. But what I'm finding out that, and I mean this respectfully, it's just that some people, they don't care about the custom, awesome graphic type. They just want the simplest of, designs that are retro, So it's like, I was thinking about going into this, head first, and let's do all these great, crazy designs and stuff. And I'll start out, and those other designs really aren't selling. Nobody's really picking up, but the most basic ones they like,
And then here I come around and buy this.
Yeah, this is great. But
I love this. I love this. The design. I mean, like I said, I was like, "Well, man, this is not."
Probably got one of the last ones.
Yeah. I saw it. Look, this is how I met Mike, John. So he had this. I was watching it, and it disappeared.
Oh, that's right.
And that's why I reached out to him, like, "Hey, man." And he, of course, did his thing.
if you feel that layer on top of that control pad, you'll notice that the black is raised. So that's a 2-layer print.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 2-layer print basically puts down a layer of white, and then it beeps at me, and I got to run in there, and then I switch to filament, and then I do a layer of black, and then it's the black goes around the white. That's how that's done. And there's a little, best practice to get that to work.
Yeah, I was like going, man. Even the little arrow buttons kind of feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's because it's got a smaller diameter.
Oh, okay. Well, I just gotta say, I think I can game better now.
That's awesome that you have that.
After I couldn't play this one, after I couldn't play this, I was like, oh, we're gonna play some Snoopy. And I swear I could shoot. Well, it could turn like on a hairpin, like when I did my Empire Strikes Back, shooting at walkers. Because this joystick right here, dude, you go flying. We were playing Empire Strikes Back, and I was oh no.
I got some other news too. Like another people on this who were watching this.
You want us to do a drum roll?
Yeah, go ahead. It's not. It's just a.
John, do you got a drum roll?
Do a drum roll. Okay. I didn't make a joke. There we go.
All right, I'll go again.
Are you guys familiar with Champ Games? Are you familiar with Champ Games? Okay. So Champ Games is pretty well known in Atari age, and they have a Facebook page. They create ports. You can probably look it up on the site, John, if you got that stuff at your. I think it's champgames.com. I don't. Maybe not. Nope, that's not. I know more on the Facebook page, but the reason I'm bringing this up is they create ports of different games. And they sell them as like cartridges and box art and all that other. And
so you're like, it was like an Asteroids version.
There they are.
It was like,
Okay.
Did they do that Asteroids version that looked like regular Asteroids, but 2600 that moved better?
Possibly, I don't know. They have a lot of them. The games that you see on the screen here. So I actually had a robot war theme. So I worked with John Champeau, who's the owner, and I'm going to be creating approved artwork for his controllers. I mean, for my controllers for his games. So they're going to.
Are these games going to be able to work on it?
They work on Atari 2600
plus.
They should.
Not the plus.
I don't know. They should. I mean, if they
don't, because homebrews sometimes don't work.
That's a good question. I got to ask John. I haven't gotten that far into the conversation yet. My assumption is that it will, or they're going to make sure that it works. But my point being with that is that I'm going to be creating controller plates for his themed for his games that are out there.
Okay.
The other thing I wanted to mention is that they have games that are 2-button Atari 2600 games. So if you're not familiar with that, there is a homebrew or there's a hack that can use a Sega Genesis control pad with and play 2-button games. So for example, back in the day, Spy Hunter, right? You needed a second controller plugged into the right port to, use the oil slick or the smoke. Well, somebody created a hack of that game that works on like a Harmony card or an Uno card, which is like a way of doing, like SD carts and putting them in your actual real console. And you can put those games on there and play the actual Spy Hunter game with 2 buttons and on one controller. So they have games like that as well that they're porting over. So old school games from the arcade that use 2 buttons can work on the 2600. And I actually have a controller like that. That is on my site. It's called the Joy 2B Plus controller for the XEGS, which is the Atari Computer System game system. So that's an actual 3-button controller. 3 action button controller that will work with homebrew games and hacks as well. And they're called hacks because they, converted the game to work with multiple buttons versus the way it used to work with the original. But that's something.
I have a few ROMs like that. I had a few ROMs that are original. Then there was there's a hack version, and then I had to look up what does it do differently and all that. Yeah.
Usually it's the control scheme, or they had different levels.
Yeah. Well, that brings me to the homebrew market, which is booming, and I was hoping, you know what, this 2600 plus round the gate, I thought would be playing every 2600 plus game. Apparently, it doesn't.
Yeah.
And that kind of to upgrade your 2600 original. I'm always about keeping the original old school. It kind of that makes me think, oh, do I have to buy another one to use that as an upgrade just in case I fuck it up? Then
Right.
you know, I got my backup.
You brick it, and then that's it. It's done.
Right, and they have I called up Atari because I got mine directly from the factory, and they said, you know, once you start doing that you see on the Atari Age, you kiss everything goodbye because that's not what it's meant for. But they're trying to help others play the homebrew and other games like Omega Race that, you know, for some reason fails.
Well, that didn't work on the Retron 77 when that came out back in the day. And I remember opening a case with Hyperkin, and I said, hey, you know, the games that are, hold that game up again. It says something like it's a CBS game, and it says like Mega.
Oh, yeah.
The games,
it's got RAM Plus.
There it is, RAM Plus. Yeah. Any RAM Plus game would not work. So like Mountain King, that wouldn't work. A bunch of games that have RAM Plus on it do not work within a Retron 77. So it's something.
Yeah, but the thing was, this worked just fine in CBS. I thought maybe at first
it have RAM Plus on it.
That's the thing. I was like, maybe it's because it has. I was even mentioned that when I was trying to play around, and then after I did the video, I sat back going, I just look like a jackass, and so I had to add the humor into the video just to make same face. And you know, I really wanted to play and try to figure out if this worked with out of the box with that game.
That could have saved you a lot of time.
I see people
that doesn't.
Well, you know my channel. I'm about unboxing, experimenting. And,
no, I know.
In the Jetmosphere level.
That's awesome. You know, that whole Atari 2600 plus experience, I got to share a little story.
Like it.
I want to share. I like it too. But I want to share a story which made me go fucking crazy. Customer had placed an order on eBay. All of a sudden, I start seeing tons. All right, when I mean tons, I'm saying like 10 or 12 on a weekend. Atari 7800, you know, and you hear the eBay cha-ching noise, cha-ching noise, cha-ching noise. Like, what the fuck is going on? And then I'm like,
selling drugs,
yeah, right. Like, did they just shit? They released the friggin' 2600 plus, and it didn't come with a 2-button controller, and it will, and it's going to be released in May.
Oh, it's sold out. The pre-orders are already sold out.
Mine's still better. Theirs comes with a 5-foot cord. Mine comes. I'm only bashing them because
I like that about your cord.
It's Atari-ish. It's not, you know, a little guy in his basement like me. Mine's a 10-foot cord, and I got custom retro graphics. But no, anyway. But they didn't have the 2-button at the time, and I started seeing all these sales. Oh, that's why. And what happened is somebody said, hey, somebody in Discord said your controller doesn't work with the 2600 plus 7800 games. And I said, are you sure? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, oh shit. So now I'm going through all my eBay sales, asking people, did you buy for the original? Did you 2600 plus? Original 2600 plus? Original? A lot of people said 2600 plus. So I said, all right, well, I don't have a 2600 plus in-house to test it. So I don't know if it's going to work or not. I've got a report that it's not going to work. Do you want me to cancel your order? Or do you want me to wait? Out of 10 orders, 2 people said cancel. The other 8 said, I'll wait for you. I trust you. So sure
and the only thing it did was just the button thing, right?
Well, that's the thing. I don't know what happened. I don't know what the original thread was in the discussion, but it made me go crazy that weekend. And you believe me not, believe you me. Is that what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I think so.
I was able to get
between you and me, man.
I was able to get a 2600 plus ordered. Now people haven't even gotten theirs yet. On Amazon, I was able to get it ordered that Friday night and have it delivered Sunday. Don't ask me how I got.
See, Amazon sold out on me too quickly, and that's the reason why
I must have got it at the right time.
And that took an extra week.
Yeah, I got it at the right time. I got it delivered. Wife was like, "It's here." I'm like, "Bye." Ran in my office, hook it up. It works, and I'm like, "What the?"
Yeah,
it fucking works. I did find out that the buttons were reversed. So one was
It's
2
no big
and 2
deal.
was 1, which is no big deal, number 1. But then they said in the next revision of their software or firmware, they're going to fix it.
That gets tricky though, because
Yeah,
they can't stand by it. See,
I saw that.
if you can't stand by your product and then say, yeah, I'll do the update, and if it doesn't take, we'll replace it.
Yeah.
There's nothing. And then in here, if you click this, John, here, it'll say about games, and there's a little PDF that you open up, and there's a list of games, and there's a few that don't work. Apparently, you know, that's how I found out about that shit. But yeah.
Well, that was
it's a great system.
I love it. I like it. I love the HDMI capability. It's like I do take a break every now and then, and I'll plug it in and I'll play it on the LCD. I like the idea.
What's the one you play the most?
Robotron. I do like Robotron. What's it?
It's badass. The challenging
brilliant.
Level, one robot, one person. That's it. What's your best score? That's
when you get to those brain guys, that's where you rack up
Yeah.
the extra guys. So when you get to the levels with the brain guys, that's where you save all the people. Okay. I don't know if you guys ever watch American Dad. Francine is the blonde with the pink dress. There's tons of those humans that have the pink dress or the kids. You have to say, I call them the Francines. You have to save all of those on that level. That's how you gain the free guys, because you are going to get killed on that level.
You ain't doing it on this one. That's
no,
for
you're
sure.
not doing it on that one, without a doubt. I get a lot of requests to build a dual stick arcade stick for Robotron. So I might not.
Well, my At Games does that. So I mean, unless you're talking about plugging it directly into the 2600.
No, I'm talking about plugging it in. Like, so for example, here's the ColecoVision version. Imagine a stick here and a stick here. And, but I just, I like the idea of doing this,
That to me is comfortable.
It is.
And that's what I was like. I was like holding up the old school PlayStation going, if Robotron just looked decent on the PS1, I think the I take that back. The Digital Eclipse did the very first Robotron port from the arcade just perfectly on their Williams collection, and it worked beautifully with this.
Yeah, I love those Williams collections.
Yeah, but with the 2600, and I was like, okay, cool.
That's for my wife.
I got excited. Oh, I got excited and like going, I had to score this and had to play it and see. Well, I know it's not going to work right. I knew we were going to be talking, and that's how I wound up with your Robotron controller. I had to get, just that one game.
Yeah, I'm getting texts. My wife just said smile more, and then she just saw it live. I smile, I laugh. Stop it, Janie.
Tell her to text you. Give Jeff the arcade game.
She'd probably say, "Come and get it," because she knows I'm always complaining about running out of room in my office.
I'll make room for you. Look, me and John, we can do a day trip.
Have a couple of drinks, play some games, and go home with an arcade machine.
There we go.
Oh my God, there's so many stories. I mean, this is awesome, guys. I mean, I don't know any other things.
So let's cover some. There's some questions I had. So we covered your very first console. You said was the
Sega Master
System. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What was your very first arcade game that you played?
Oh my God, nobody's gonna remember
like
this.
You walked up and saw the arcade game.
All right. So I'll throw out some names, but because there was a candy store. I used to live in New York, in Long Island.
Okay, hold on. That's where I'm from.
That's John's stopping
That's my
grounds.
territory. Where on the island?
Right, so we're going to break it down slowly. First, we'll say Suffolk County.
Okay, gotcha.
All right, then we'll go into Babylon District. And
Okay.
then we'll go into Village, Lindenhurst.
All right. My wife is from Lindenhurst. I grew up in Smithtown and then moved to Bay Shore.
That is insane. My wife and I got married and we moved over to Islip at that time.
We were right around the corner from the Peter Pan Diner.
Oh my God. I know my wife's watching right now saying, "Oh, you got to be kidding." That's off of Sunrise Highway. Used to go there all the time.
Yep.
That's insane. Damn, John. probably went to school with you at one point. Maybe one of my friends might have.
You're probably lost brothers or something.
Oh, somebody responded. Mom said wrong. I don't know what that is about. I guess the girls are watching. My daughters are watching too. So the first arcade, so we had a candy store up the block from us. That was back in the day where Mom would say, here's 50 cents. Go buy me a pack of Parliament 100s. And, little 8-year-old walking up the block to buy a pack of cigarettes for his mom.
It was legal.
Yeah,
Kids could do that.
Nobody asked that thing. And I would play the arcade game in there. Now, the first one that comes to mind, I mean, look, there's Pac-Man, there's Donkey Kong, all that crap, right? But there was a game called Radical Radial. Anybody even remember that?
I didn't.
Okay. So basically it was like a shooter, but the tire was rolling, but it was still stationary on the bottom, but it looked like, and the screen was moving. And it basically had obstacles that you would jump over and enemies that you would fight. And I loved the shit out of that. I'm talking about when I was a kid, like you said. That candy store, for years, I would go to that, and it evolved. And then they got Dragon's Lair.
Oh, I love that.
Not get me out of that store unless I ran out of money. I mean, until you
That's
actually
exactly why you look.
Oh, there it is.
Stop playing Dragon's Lair just for that reason.
Oh wow, it looks like a spy hunter kind of thing.
Yeah, I guess you almost like a spy hunter if you think about it. But this was like my first arcade game I remember as a kid. If you want to even go way back in the day, John, see if you could bring up Starfire by Eddie E-I-D-Y Etsy. It was basically like a space fighter where you're like in a cockpit and you have to target enemies, and the enemies used TIE fighters from Star Wars. Yep, there it is. This I remember 1978. So John, Massapequa Timeout Arcade in Massapequa Mall. I don't know, Sunrise Mall. I don't know if that sounds familiar
Talk
to you.
about rip-offs from Star Wars.
Sunrise Mall, the Sunrise Mall in Massapequa. That's where we used to go quite a lot. When I was a kid, I was in Smithtown, so I went to
Smithtown Mall. Yeah,
Smith Haven.
Okay,
and most of my arcade gaming was done at the Modell's.
Oh God!
Before it became a sporting goods only, it was a department store, and I used to get my hair cut in the back.
What was your first arcade, John?
It was the probably Star Wars.
Star Wars arcade.
Was your first?
Yeah,
love that too. That was your first.
That's a really good looking TIE fighter, though.
But it had nothing to do with Star Wars franchise. That's what oh my God, it has TIE fighters, and I used to think that was the ship from Battlestar Galactica. If you remember that,
that's a blatantly a
Viper.
Yeah, there's that looks like the spaceship from a Stargate too. It was just.
But this, I remember, my dad. I was sitting in, it was like you actually sat in this. It was like a cockpit type, sit-in game, and I'd sit on my father's lap, and I remember playing this.
So your dad was a gamer.
He entertained us. He wasn't a hardcore gamer. I have a video of him. I'll share it with you guys later. I don't even know where I could find it right now. He's playing one of my first arcades I built. He was playing Space Invaders, and he was getting like all crazy at it and stuff like that. I'll try to find it later. It's really, really funny. But yeah, he bought us our first Atari, and I remember it's one of my stories on my site. It was for Christmas, but he had to test it to make sure it worked. So we would have it for Christmas, and he goes, "Don't tell your brother, don't tell your mother." And I remember we had a coffee table, we had one of those Zenith TVs, with the dial on it, and like dark at night, and he turned it on, and we played Combat, and I was just like, "Oh wow, this is amazing!" And then he said, "All right, we got to pack it up and put it away." I'm like, what are you talking about?
So you hid this gaming system from your mother
until
for
Christmas.
How long?
I think it was had to be like maybe a month. Yeah, it was like he got it like with a store back then.
You wanted to play with it first. That's what.
Oh yeah, well please, I do the same thing with my kids. We got to test it, make sure it works.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, I was saying my first game system was the Vectrex, and we got it we got it at a Stearns. I'm drawing a blank on the name of the town, but it was closer to Shea Stadium than not.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember being in there, and when we bought it, do you guys remember the old TV show called Gargoyle? It wasn't a TV show; it was a movie called Gargoyles.
I remember
It was a cartoon.
Not the cartoon; it was a movie, and I remember
live action.
Yeah, it scared the hell out of me, and they were playing this on the TVs in the.
Oh, okay. I remember the character from it. I'm looking at the picture now on the internet. It scared the shit out of me as a kid.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
I didn't know that was from a movie, but okay.
Yeah, that's. I got my Vectrex at the Stearns and Gertz.
Stearns. Yeah, Stearns. Okay.
Yeah.
How much was it? Do you remember?
Oh, I didn't care. I was finally getting a game system.
I won one, and I couldn't get one because it was too darn expensive when I was a kid. And I saw them at a closeout at KB Toy Store at Winter Park Mall in San Antonio. They're going for $79.99.
Oh my
and
God.
I wish I got one. I didn't. I just looked at it like one. I wish I had the extra $79 because even then it was still expensive.
Yeah. Now they're crazy ridiculous now, and if they break, good luck.
Oh,
trying to find somebody.
Oh yeah.
So it says.
Well, John tried to get it fixed.
Yeah, nobody wants to fix mine.
Even there's the
Maybe
Vectrex Fans Unite on Facebook.
Somebody offered to, he said, ship it to me and I'll fix it for you and ship it back. And, being from New York, I don't trust anybody without getting a written receipt,
right?
Or I can come get you. So I never sent it out.
I know that feeling. I don't know if my friend Mitchell is on here anymore. He was on earlier today. He's the APH EXT. I don't know how to pronounce that. FX or something like that. Like in the stream on the right. I met him on Twitter, and my Commodore 64 that I had as a kid stopped working, and I posted a post on my Twitter. Anybody fix a Commodore 64? And eventually he and I hooked up. He's one of the nicest guys I ever met. We communicate weekly if possible. I sent it out to him to where he was. I figured, you know what? Why not? What's going to happen? If not, it's, I'll lose it and that's it. But he fixed it and got it, and he put it in even better condition than I had it. He cleaned it up. He cleaned the feet on it. I mean, he even replaced buttons and it went above and beyond, kind of like what I did for you, Jeff.
Wow.
Yeah. And he sent it back.
I appreciate it.
No, I'm teasing you, and he replaced the RAM chip, whatever it is. He got it working perfectly. And I'm like, oh my God. So I have this Commodore 64 that, my brother just came to visit not too long ago, and we booted up Bruce Lee, which was a game we had played as a kid. And I'm talking about disc in the floppy drive, type of the command. I mean, it was awesome reliving that type of nostalgic moment.
So you worked right out of DOS straight up, right?
That was the Commodore 64 operating system back then. That was my first.
That's right. That's right. It was a computer straight up. Yeah.
Yep.
Because I had one of those Tandy TRS 80s.
Yep.
I saved up. Well, I was saving up for trying to get some sort of computer. They were super expensive, and then I have neighbor to say, "Hey, you're helping me a lot. I just want to give you this." And it was a old school Tandy, and that's how I learned. That's how I had to learn how to code because Windows didn't exist back then.
Yep.
We just got a book.
Yep, you got a basic book. I had a book of basic games, and I started coding Atari 800. So my first computer was the Atari. Well, actually, it was the Timex Sinclair, which is also known as like the ZX Spectrum.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had the Atari 800, and then a big book my parents gave me was like program your own games, and I picked up. And that's how I started learning basic programming. Sitting at the TV in the family room, troubleshooting, debugging, trying to get this crap to work. And then when I got it to work, I was like, "This is it. This is the game." All these characters. It was like.
You see, I always wanted to build my own game, and I was not good at it. And when I got the Digital Eclipse released the Golden Master series,
and they had the one about that karate game. I can't bring in the blank. It starts with karate or karate.
Karateka?
But Karate.
Yeah.
That guy worked on the Apple II coding that game, and now he's doing, the Prince of Persia.
Yep.
That could have been you. That could have been you, Mike.
Yeah, no, I had a calling for something else.
Well, thank God.
I had a Commodore 64.
Guys that... Go ahead, John. Sorry.
I had a Commodore 64, and the farthest I ever got was making labels for my Star Trek recordings on VHS. That's about as far as I ever got.
See, John was selling black market field tapes to the Star Wars special in school.
Making those long banners on those dot matrix printers, say happy birthday.
Yeah, that was it. That was the height of my programming.
Thanks, Street Writer, for your word processing program. And then we'd have copy night parties, sleepovers with our friends. Bring your box of discs and your 1541 drive.
Oh, yeah.
And nobody would sleep. And we would just swap and copy games all night long.
It took a long time to do that, though.
Well, believe it or not, when you had a source drive and a target drive, it was not one of these source. Yeah, because everybody would bring their drives and everybody would hook up multiple computers. And then they would have like 2-3 stations set up with source and target drives. So it wasn't like copy, wait, done, then put the target in, wait, done. It was double stack drives. And that's what they would do all night. And then you come home and have these boxes of games that you, to this day, that some of them still work, believe it or not, on that. It's amazing.
I'm surprised it works this long. Well, the 3 1/4 I can see because the shell is a little more thicker. But
yeah.
Then, 5 1/4 and the 8
materials. Oh. Yep.
Well, this has been such a learning experience for me because I never thought of, once the thing broke, I never would have thought that, somebody's out there making new controllers.
Yeah.
Because, it's like you always go down to the store and buy one.
Yeah.
But to be able to see what you're doing with the 3D printing and the quality that you're putting out, it's really cool. And
thank you
thank you for coming on. And Jeff, thanks for
and customer service. Service is class act, man. Class act.
That's what I try. It's like this is a side hustle, right? My main job is marketing, technical marketing. But since it is a side hustle, it's one of these things where it's like, I want people to know that I care about them, right? It's not something that it's just like, I'm trying to make sure I grab every bit of profit that I can and not care about the customer. It's less about profit. It's more about making relationships. If you and I didn't have our talk, Jeff, like we had, I might not be on this podcast with you guys, and just
and
meeting.
You would never met a fellow New Yorker too.
Yeah, that too. And hopefully maybe I'll have another opportunity to come on just to BS with you guys about something else. I mean, just doing stuff like this is fun, right? This is not about making more sales for me. This is about just fraternizing.
Well, before we wrap this up, John, because I know you're trying to wrap it up, I do have two things I need to talk to Mike real quick about. We'll keep it short. One, I want to really thank all the guys who came aboard to watch the video and also commented. Thank you so kindly for you guys. Warms our heart just to have people around who's like-minded. But Mike, the question I have for you before we end the show is, I know that this is a side hustle. I always was thinking, is this going to turn into a family business? What is the future of Retro Game Boyz in your mind that you're going to leave behind in your legacy?
That's a very good question. It depends on financial situations where I got to take care of my family, right? It's just like every day I would be like, I can't quit my day job because I won't have benefits and retirement and all the other type of things that go along with it. But I like doing this because it defines me as a person outside of my day job and my family, and it gives opportunities to do things like this and meet all these great people like Dan, for example, who's been blowing up the the comments. Yeah, I always remember up, down, left, right, VA start. But I manage it in a way where I guess it's continuing to grow slowly. I talk about, maybe branching off. I can tell you that we have grown. I can tell you my wife helps a lot from the day to day. She is a very important part of this. A lot of parts prep and, getting things ready. So I do a couple hours before work in the morning. I do a couple hours after work in the evening. So things are ready for me to go so I can get these orders out faster. I think continually to go at a steady pace and adding new products to the product line, because I do work with engineers and people who submit ideas and things that they want me to make for them and stuff like that. So I think it's just going to continue on an even keel until I get to a point maybe where I'm financially stable enough where I can say I'm going to do this full time, where I don't, maybe let's just say 3 years from now, and kids, you don't have to leave. I'm not telling you to leave. Okay. But let's just say they're out of the house.
Put them to work.
Right. They're on those. So now I'm not supporting them anymore, so to speak. So maybe that's a signal where I could do this full time.
That's your 3-year plan to be full time, 100% Retro Game Boyz.
Perfect. 3-year plan. Let's see where that brings us.
And once they're gone, you have room for more printers.
I'm already working on that actually in the garage right now. There's a plan for a couple more printers.
I saw a video of a big open space. Is that one giant printer or something?
That's a laser cutter. That's a laser engraver, laser cutter. That's in that area, but there'll be a little bit more areas for a couple more printers.
You gotta say it like Dr. Evil when you say laser from now on.
It's a laser cutter.
It's laser.
Laser. Oh no, that was supposed to be quote.
Quote, yeah.
Cool. Well, John and Jeff, thank you. It's good to know you, and thank you for having me on the show. And definitely would be willing to come on again if you would have me whenever you're ready. And I enjoyed it very much, and I'm glad to get along. Glad to know you.
Same here. Jeff, what do you got coming up on the Collector Zone this week?
Oh, man, you know me. I'm always playing some sort of video game and doing unboxing. And like Mike, I'm all about the Atari 2600. And
you'll get this next week.
Oh, yeah. So when I get that, here's how far behind I am. As you know on the channel, I do a couple of videos because I have videos I've made that I haven't edited yet. So my job, my day job, like Mike says, some things are a side hustle. The Collector Zone is a passion project that originally trying to just share my collection, talking about things with like-minded people, mainly my family. And it grew into this thing now where I'm sharing my experiences. Most of them are the first time playing games that, hey, I didn't hear about this. Or because for some reason, being a hardcore gamer, I apparently lived in the arcades and played all the popular stuff. And there's tons of games, especially for the 2600 that I've never played before. So yeah, more 2600 to come and some special unboxings too by Mike.
Yeah, cool. Very, very cool.
Well, we appreciate your time. Thanks to everybody in the chat for all your input. Dan,
Yes.
don't piss off the bots anymore, Dan. Okay, so that's all I can say. Well, thank you again, Mike, for coming on the program. We really appreciate it. Anytime you have something new that's coming out, feel free to stop by.
Oh, yeah.
All right, cool. I have a feeling Jeff and I are going to be communicating way more even after we're off. He's direct text. We're outside of eBay messaging now. Everything's direct text now. He's actually a contact in my phone too. So
give it that about
eBay
6
was
months,
a one-time
and then
thing.
eBay was a one-time thing.
6 months, and then you'll be blocking his number, just like I have.
No,
so
good.
John's like, hey, come on the show. Let's start a show, man.
That's great, man.
Again, thanks for coming on this Friday. Everybody out there, we are doing another Federation Friday. This week is the episode Miri. So if you haven't watched, the original series in a while, grab your episode Miri, check it out, and then follow along with us as me and the gang talk about it on Friday night. Until then. Thanks for watching, everybody. We will see you next time right here on the Geek and I.
Take care, guys. Bye.
There's